Hello and good evening. I'm Rachel Priestman, and a big thanks to the Harmony House team for inviting me to be with you here this evening. Of course, we know actually I'm not with you and you're not in Harmony House, but we're doing everything by vibrations these days, right? So let's just catch each other's vibrations wherever we happen to be sitting. So I've been invited to talk to you on the topic of learning to be natural. I actually chose the topic because it kind of intrigued me. Learning to be natural, isn't that a bit of a contradiction in terms? But that's exactly what I feel that I'm learning to do on this path of spirituality. Just a bit about me. I've been practicing Raja Yoga meditation for about 15 years now, and it's made a big difference to my life. I'm very appreciative, very grateful, and I'm always learning. It is really a lifelong learning. But one of the things that really strikes me is how much I have to learn to become the real me and not perhaps the me I thought I was. And many of you who are familiar with the teachings of Raja Yoga and have been coming to the talks or listening to the talks will know that really the fundamental element of our teachings is that I am a spiritual being. I am this life energy within my physical body, but I'm not the body. I know I started this by saying I'm Rachel, but that's practical. But I'm not actually my body, and I'm not my history, and I'm not my personality. I am that being of light, that being of peace that is within this body. So I use this body to express myself, to experience life, and to be communicating with you today. And it sounds so simple, but actually being natural, to me anyway, hasn't been so simple. And I've realized that I've acquired a lot of habits, a lot of ways of responding, ways of reacting to situations and people, ways of even thinking, talking to myself. How do I talk to myself? These ways that I've developed over the years for various reasons, as a result of various situations, that have actually prevented me, that are stopping me from being natural, from being who I really am. And so that's what I'd really like to explore with you today is, what does it mean to be natural? How come we've become unnatural? And how do we become that again? How can we practically help ourselves to be who we really are inside? I'm reminded of a lovely quote by Marianne Williamson. And she said, "We are all meant to shine as children do." And I think that's the case for all of us. We are all meant to shine, and we all have the capacity and the propensity to shine. But sometimes a shadow comes over, sometimes we close the curtains, and sometimes we just don't feel up to shining, right? And so let's explore a bit about why that happens and how we can enable ourselves to shine in the way that, yes, we are meant to be. And this topic is, I think, particularly relevant for the times we're in right now, because we've been forced to reassess our lives. We've been forced to look at how we're spending our time, our money, our energy. We've been forced to looking at what is our priority. And I think because we've had the control that we're used to having over our lives, or at least some of it taken away from us, and that capacity to plan and to do what we choose to do, when we choose to do it, with whom we choose to do it, that's been taken away from us for at least a short time. And so we've had to adapt. We've had to change our plans. We've had to change the way we do things, the way we interact with people, because we're not used to being with people for 6, 8, 10 hours a day in the same way that perhaps we have been, particularly during lockdown. And we're used to going out and spending time with who we want to spend time with and doing what we were going to do or what we've always done. And then suddenly something happens, and it's happened all over the world, that said, stop. You just have to stop for a little while, and we have to get this sorted out, and then we can move on. And many people are talking these days about what is the new normal. And I think it won't go back to the old normal, but what will be the new normal? And this actually brings up something which I think is essential to the message I'd like to share today, which is the difference between what is natural and what is normal. We kind of use the words interchangeably, but they're actually quite different. What is natural to me is what is innate. It is what is real in me, what is eternal in me. But what is normal is what has become the norm, what has become my routine, or my habit, or my tendency, or even my personality. And so this has been this time of lockdown, this time of restrictions and rules, which have been very challenging for many people. And I think our hearts go out to all of the people who've perhaps lost friends and relatives, they've been ill themselves, their businesses are going through a lot. So, it's not that we underestimate the huge difficulties that people are having to cope with, and that will go on for a little longer, I think. But how can we use this time, even this challenging time that we've been forced into, how can we use it to help ourselves deal better with situations, deal better with this situation, but perhaps deal better with all situations by coming back to that natural self of sense of well-being, that natural sense of my own inner strengths, my own inner goodness, and my qualities and my capacity to help other people. I know myself when I'm feeling a bit low or a bit tired or a bit down, I'm not so good at helping other people. I'm too focused on looking after myself, protecting myself, getting things for myself. But if I were able to learn how to look after myself better, how to nourish myself, nurture myself better, so that I come back into that sense of natural well-being, then I won't be so needy. I won't be looking for solutions to my problems outside, from other people, from situations. But instead, I'll be able to help. I'll be able to offer support, offer a bit of lightness, whatever it is, because I myself will have been I've looked after myself, and therefore I'll be able to look after others. And actually, I mentioned to you that I've been meditating for about 15 years, and it was exactly that situation which prompted me to start meditating. Because I've been very fortunate in my life, I'll be honest with you. I had a lovely family. My health has been good. I enjoyed my education. I enjoyed my work. I had lovely friends. So you could think, wow, lovely, lovely. But there was always something I was looking for, something that I was missing. And so I kept moving around. In fact, I'll admit to you, I had 28 addresses in 28 years, which gives you an indication I was a little bit restless. I got good at packing, though. So there was, on one side, there was that restlessness. I was always looking. I felt that something was missing in my life, but I didn't know what it was, despite all the lovely things that were happening around me and the lovely people I had around me. So that was one element. But the other was that I went through a phase of about 5 years when a lot of sad and shocking things happened to people around me. I was okay, I was fortunate, but close friends and family went through a lot of suffering. And I remember thinking, it's not so much that I can't take anymore, but it's I can't give anymore. I felt empty. All the sadness and the sorrow that had come from seeing what my friends and my close family were going through brought me down, and I didn't have the resources to help them. And that was really not a nice feeling, that, you couldn't give where you knew support or help or love was needed, or you couldn't give enough because I was empty myself. And so this was what really prompted me. I remember thinking, I don't need comfort, I need strength. And where am I going to get it from? And it was actually a friend of mine, an Indian friend of mine from university, who said, go to India and do yoga. And I thought, that sounds nice, because I used to do hatha yoga and I used to enjoy it. But then I thought, you know what? I don't think I need to go to India. I'm going to go to the Brahma Kumaris. Because I'd heard about them through my hatha yoga teacher. I'd heard about them, and I'd been getting their thoughts for the day for many years, 4 or 5 years, many addresses, but the thoughts of the day came by my email wherever I was. And I remember thinking how uplifting they were and how they just tended to say exactly what I needed to hear that day. And I would send it off to all my friends saying, look at this is just what I needed to know. And so I did. I was in Cambridge at the time, and I went along to an inner space that they have there. And I asked lots of questions. Who are you? And what do you do? And why do you do it? And what are your rules? And all of that. And I really liked their values. I really liked the fact that it wasn't sentimental, but it was like, you can help yourself. This is how you do it. And it's for each one of us to come into our own strength, to come into that own sense of well-being and goodness and inner power that all of us have, but just like I had at that time, we lose sight of. And we focus on what's not right and what we're feeling empty of and what we're not feeling so happy with. And so Raja Yoga meditation has helped me start to create the kind of thoughts that are going to take me up, that are going to uplift me and elevate my consciousness, elevate my attitude, and let me see the world and see other people in a more positive and appreciative way. And of course, if I'm positive and appreciative, then the world comes back to me in a more positive and in a way that I appreciate more. So this is really the essence of Raja Yoga. It's about creating thoughts that take me up, but along with that, I have to start finishing, letting go of the thoughts that take me down. So it's like one spiral's going up, creating those good thoughts, and another of letting go of that downward spiral of, poor me, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, it's not fair, why me, and all of those things that I know have sabotaged me and still do from time to time, but I'm learning to laugh at it and just say, be quiet. So let's think about what it means to be natural. We all love nature, right? We all love being in nature. Even if it's just like a little pocket of grass or our back garden, or even a pot plant on the windowsill, whatever it is, there's something about nature that resonates with us, and it reminds us of something natural and flowing and real within ourselves. And it's interesting that I remember years ago I was interviewing someone. He was a diplomat, and he had the job of negotiating between two sides of conflicting countries. It was actually Russia and the Chechens. And he told me how do you get people who are so at loggerheads with each other to come into a state of harmony and come into some kind of state of, if not harmony, then understanding, mutual understanding, to find common ground. And he would always take them into a place of nature and surround them with nature. And then they would start to talk about the eternal shared values, shared issues of life, like love and friendship and even death and even birth. But, the things that we all have in common. And this is what did work and did bring people back to a sense of understanding. So similarly with my own self, to help myself become more natural, it's good to allow myself to be in nature, to be touched by nature. Not that I'm actually taking on it, not that I'm depending on it, but I'm just allowing it to help me get back into that state of feeling well and feeling relaxed and feeling comfortable. I think there's a Chinese saying which is, tension means I should be, But relaxation means I am. And I think we can spend a lot of time thinking I should, it should, she should, he should, that should, not accepting things how they are, wanting things to be different, projecting in a way my sense of discomfort or lack of ease onto somebody or something or the situation. But when I start to connect with that innate being, that natural being inside, the being who is that spark of light energy that is naturally good, beautiful, powerful, sweet, happy, fun, all of those things. We're all of those things. But as I say, we can lose sight of that because we get pulled down by these thoughts that take us down. And so connecting with that inner self, that self that is who I really am, eternally, innately, naturally, that being of peace. Each one of us are naturally peaceful beings. And more than that, we are naturally loving. Not just I love you but not you, or I love you because you did this and I don't love you because you didn't do that. We are naturally loving. We love to love. It's just like giving a Christmas present is so much more fun than receiving one, because we love to love, we love to give love, and we love to give something that people are going to really appreciate and they're going to make them feel valued and cared for and thought about, right? So we love to love because it's natural to us. Here's another one. We are naturally wise. One of our daddies, Daddy Gulzar, once said, "There is no problem for which the soul itself does not have the solution." We all have deep wisdom within us, unique wisdom within us. But again, we don't value it. We don't listen to it. And so we cannot benefit as much as we could from it. But actually, each one of us is very wise. And so part of meditation is about connecting again with that inner being, that being of goodness, that being of peace, that being of wisdom. So that then it's easier for me to choose what's the right thing to do, what's the valuable thing to do, what's according to my priorities and my values, and not just to be pushed into something because somebody else wants me to, or because society expects it, or even because my habits are driving me that way. Raja Yoga, Raja meaning the master, I start to take mastery again. I reclaim mastery over my own mind, my own thinking. And if I regain mastery over my own thinking, then my words and my actions are according to how I want them to be, and not just how I've always done things. Often we say, oh, well, that's just my nature. That's just his nature. But actually, it's just the norm. It's become the norm. It's become my habit of doing that. I have a habit of being a bit too fast. And I got praised a lot. You know, I'm very good at doing things quickly, and I got a lot of praise over the years from bosses and colleagues and friends, whatever. Oh, you did that so quickly. But it's become a habit that also is not a good thing. And I see how it's not easy for me to let go of that. It's almost like all that feedback is still there telling me, that's a good thing, it's good to be fast, do that fast. And many of the things, the habits that we have that are actually not so helpful, they can be good, but they've kind of gone into excess. And so this time when we give ourselves time for reflection, to step back into that awareness of the identity of the inner being, the soul, and not the physical body, that's when we can start reevaluating our thinking patterns, reevaluating our attitudes to why I do something, how people behave, what is important for me, or even my attitude towards my own self. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes if you hear yourself talk to yourself, it's not very nice. It's not very polite, and other people wouldn't accept it. So we can be pretty rude to ourselves and pretty heartless to ourselves. And so it's really important, if I want to get on with other people, and if I want to be kind and compassionate with other people, it's good to start with myself. Not that I'm soppy and I'm self-indulgent, but it's good to accept the self. Yes, we have all made mistakes, and yes, we all have defects and shortcomings, but that's okay. We're all work in progress. This is lifelong learning. And it's when we start forcing things and pushing things that we go further away from what is natural. We actually take ourselves further away. I'm remembering a funny story. There was a young man who turned up at a Buddhist monastery, and a monk opened the big heavy door and asked him what he wanted. And the young man said, "I want to become enlightened. I want you to give me enlightenment. Can you do that?" And the monk said, Yes, we can do that. You can learn enlightenment here." And the young man asked, "How long will it take?" And the monk thought a little bit, and he said, 10 years. And the young man said, "But what if I work really, really hard?" And the monk answered, 20 years. "But that's not fair." And the monk said, 30 years. So this learning to become who I really am, it's not about forcing it, and nor is it about expecting it to be a certain way or rejecting what comes along or, refusing to take on the learning that is coming. And it won't be a quick path. It is constant. It's a constant vigil, a constant learning, but it's also very interesting. There is nothing more interesting than learning how to become your real self. Fascinating. And so that's what this path is all about. It's about learning to become who I am, that upward spiral, and then learning to unlearn habits I've got into. Unlearn maybe false identities, identifying myself with this physical body. Okay, I'm English, I'm female, I like meditating, whatever. But that's not who you really are, and that's not who I really am. And so letting go of those limited ideas of myself, it's a bit like a straitjacket, It's like we can think, I'm not like this, I'm like that. This is how I do things. This is how things should be. But actually, these are taking away my happiness. And they're not allowing me to flow. They're not allowing me to learn. They're not allowing me to interact so easily with other people because I've become rigid. And what causes that rigidness, that rigidity, is actually a sense of insecurity based on some kind of sense of loss or fear of pain, memory of pain. So I start to feel insecure, I start to feel vulnerable, as if I could lose something, I could be hurt. And you can see that with children, young children, they're very open, they're very innocent, they're very engaging and warm-hearted and embracing everything and curious. And then all of us, we start to become more, as we learn more and we experience more, and some of the learning and experience is not happy, is not comfortable, in fact is very painful, we learn to be more cautious. And it's almost like sometimes we learn to numb down our feelings. So we numb down the pain, but along with the pain we also numb down the happiness and the joy and all those positive attributes as well. But right now, I want to become my natural, true self. I'm on this path of learning how to be authentic, how to really live what I believe. I believe absolutely, firmly and truly with my heart that I am a soul and that I am peace, I am love, I am wisdom, I am happiness, I am purity. And I also believe that absolutely every single one of you are exactly the same. There's no question of that. But one thing is to believe it, another thing is really to live it. And not just in the big things, but in the little things. And that's where the learning, but also the unlearning comes in, of just recognizing where I'm tripping myself up, where I'm sabotaging myself by old habits that sometimes I'm not even aware of. I had no idea I had so much force in me, and that was of course a little bit behind the speed, that there's quite a lot of fear in me, fear of conflict and disagreement. All of these things start, because it's like when you start this journey, all the things that were on the carpet or in the drawers hidden away start coming out, which is not comfortable, but then I did decide I didn't want comfort, I wanted strength. And so you have to let go of the things that are comfortable, or that, not that comfort is wrong, but that some comfort just numbs. Some comfort just is an avoidance, is a denial, or is a projection. It's their fault. It's because of that. Instead of saying, what am I doing to myself that's causing me this pain? What thoughts am I having that's poisoning that relationship? Is it that when I even see that person who hurt me 10 years ago, I remember that and I can't forgive them, and I know that they'll always be like that? What if I were able to choose to draw a line under the past of what happened? That I stay in that consciousness of myself, the soul, the being of peace, the being of love, the being of wisdom. And when I next see that person, that soul, that's the awareness that I have of myself, but also them. Because that's who they really are too. And okay, they may have made a mistake. Have you never made a mistake? Have I never made a mistake? We've all made mistakes. And maybe we were just in such pain at the time, or such difficulty, or such confusion, that we didn't know any better, or we couldn't do any better. So similarly, most times, when someone has hurt me, it's because they were doing the best they could at the time. And so can I use that innate wisdom of mine and that capacity for peace and love to say, it's okay, it's finished. What happened, what's important is not what happened. What's important is what is happening right now. So that thing of one is letting go of the past, and that choice alongside it, that choice to be absolutely present. And not just present with my body and my mind is elsewhere thinking of something else, but totally, completely present. Present with all my virtues, present with all my good qualities. And when I then have that, bring that to a relationship, then I'm not bringing a begging bowl. I'm not saying, please like me, please agree with me, please do what I say, all forms of begging. But I'm coming with a fruit bowl. The fruit bowl of my qualities. The fruit bowl of love, peace, happiness, playfulness, cheerfulness, whatever. And that's how we can switch. And then it's like I'm coming from my real self. And I start to let go of that caution, that uncertainty, that fear in relationships, with situations, even with my own self on my own journey. And instead, I come from that place of fullness, of wellness, of appreciation, and that feeling that I've got something that's valuable to contribute. I want to share it. And can you imagine if we all became like that? If we all had that sense of well-being, that sense of appreciation, both of myself, but also of the other. And so learning to become that natural, innocent, beautiful being who I really am inside, but also accepting but letting go of that other persona. The word persona in Greek means a mask, and personality can sometimes be quite a mask. You know, people are used to seeing us in this way, and that's how we become. I have quite a lot of connection with people who are in the pop industry. And it's interesting, over the years, I've heard so many stories of how when you become famous, how very difficult it is to keep your sense of self. It's almost as like that persona, that famous persona, takes over. And everybody is either really nice to you because they like you, or they're not nice to you because they don't value you. And it's actually got nothing to do with who you really are inside. And apparently someone was saying my brother used to say there's a kind of a way that particularly lead singers, they talk about lead singeritis. And it's like when you become a lead singer, that you're really in the spotlight, you get a lot of attention, everybody treats you particularly well, and you're always, as I say, in the pictures at the front and whatever. And actually, it is a kind of, certainly it's unease or illness, but it's a kind of, it is a handicap, because people are not seeing you for who you really are. They're just catching on to that persona. And okay, most of us are not lead singers, and we're not in the pop industry or the film industry or whatever it is, but we can still get trapped into that straitjacket I mentioned earlier of who I am, or that behind the mask of the personality of who I am. And so becoming natural is also even observing that the elements of my personality that I thought were what made me me. But actually they don't, because actually personality is just the sum of all the things all the different attitudes that I've had, the different habits I've had, the different thoughts I've had. So it all goes back to what I've started to think, then becomes how I feel, that becomes my habit of thinking, my attitude, then becomes my personality. And as has been said, then that can, if I don't watch it, that can become my destiny. So how do I want to be? Do I want to be just a creation of my personality? Do I want to be a creation of the things that have happened to me? Or do I want to be the creator of my own true self? And that's what I'm doing, what I'm learning to do through meditation, is I'm learning to tap into and observe and bring out into my life, into everyday life, that inner self. That self that is not physical, just a point of light, and you can imagine it here in the middle of the forehead, quite separate from my physical body. Is eternal, will never die. So any fear about illness or death, it won't affect the soul. Yes, the body will go, it came and it will go, but the soul is eternal. And the ramifications of that are huge in terms of taking away that sense of fear or vulnerability or fear of risk or any of that. But no, let me be creative and let me create the best possible life that I can for myself and for my friends and family and for my community and ultimately for the world. Because the greatest contribution that each and every one of us can make for the world. You know, we may not be in important positions. We may not have the wealth to be able to, you know, like Bill Gates, to be able to do this or set up a foundation or whatever. But really the most important thing that we can do to contribute to the world, and particularly at this time, this very challenging time of the world's history, is to become who we really are. To become and to live and to help others live in a way that's according to our true values, to our true nature. So, to be peaceful, to be loving, to be wise, to be powerful, to be pure, untainted, uninfluenced, untarnished. And the thing that almost everybody wants in their lives, to be happy. Because we search for happiness, we study happiness, we travel, or we were until recently traveling for happiness, and some are now. But actually, the truth is that happiness is right there. Happiness is who you are. And what stops me being happy is because I've lost sight of who I am. And I'm trying to be something else. I've got into the shoulds. I should be this, I should be that, I shouldn't be this, I should be doing this. Or I'm not happy with the mistakes I've made. And it's like I'm owned by the past. I'm owned by the things that I've done which I know are wrong, or were a mistake, will hurt me or hurt somebody else. But now is the time to just let go of the past. Accept it, not that I hide it. Accept it. Yes, that happened. Okay, what can I learn from it? There will be some gift in everything that went wrong. The German word for poison is gift. And so I always say that when there's some poisonous situation, some toxic situation, there will be some gift in it. So what's the gift of the learning from whatever it is that I have gone through? And if something's happened to me or if someone's wronged me, how can I learn from that to do things differently? Because I want to create a life for myself that's true, that's beautiful, and that brings out the very, very best in me. And when I do that, then I'm one of those lovely people who will bring out the best in everybody else. We all know people like that. You're just so comfortable to be with them. What you may have had thoughts in your mind before you went to see them, and then you go and you've forgotten about everything. That was always my experience with Daddy Janki. I'd just go into her company and she had such an elevated and loving vision of me, but also everybody else, but of me, that I would just forget everything. And I would just bask in this feeling of love and belonging and gratitude that someone has such a positive and loving vision of myself. And similarly, actually, if our natural nature is to be loving and wise and peaceful, then we all have that loving and positive vision for ourselves, but also for everybody else. And can you imagine how life would be different if that were the case? If each one of us could see not the defects, not the shortcomings, but just the virtues, just the strengths, just the special contribution that one has. Practice I started, and I haven't done it for a while, but actually talking to you now, I think I will start it again. I started writing a glog. Now, we've talked about we know about blogs and we know about vlogs. So what's a glog? A glog is a goodness log. And I have a little notebook, and on each page of the notebook, I put the name of someone who I'm either living with, or I'm working with, or I see regularly. And okay, I might not be seeing them regularly, but maybe I'm Zooming with them or Skyping with them or something regularly, or just calling them on the phone. But basically the people who are closest to me in my life, who I have most interaction with. And what I would do is whenever I noticed something that I appreciated in them, I would write it down, I would add it to that page. And it's particularly valuable for people who you're not getting on so well with, or maybe they are not really appreciating you too much. Make a point of seeing what's good in them, of appreciating something they did that you hadn't noticed before. Maybe something really small, like they make good jam, or it could be that they accepted something with calmness, or it may be, it could be all sorts of things, that they were kinder to you, or they smiled at you, or, they're all sorts of qualities. But just see something that you value. And if you can do that, particularly if it's someone, as I say, who you're having some difficult times with, what it does, it trains me. It trains me to appreciate and let go of the criticism, but instead to say, okay, what's good? Yes, there may be things that aren't good, but there are lots of things that's good. You see a dot on a piece of paper, and you see the dot, which may be the one defect, but what about the rest of the piece of paper? So similarly, let me see what's good. Let me appreciate. And so these are just a few things that I've wanted to share about becoming my natural self. So how do I go about it practically? How can I help myself get into that different frame of mind, different way of thinking? And so the first really is about learning to enjoy and use silence in a way that helps me and that enriches me. And if you haven't done the Raja Yoga course, the meditation course, I really recommend you do. And I know that the team at Harmony House will be able to tell you when that is. And it's also on the website. And but that is, for me, that's the best way of getting an understanding of where to start. It gives you the tools, it gives you the basic understanding, and it provides you, if you want it, with a support system. So learning to use silence, to reflect, and to take power from that silence, so that I become aware of myself, my own qualities as a soul, but also as I become aware of those qualities, and as they become real and true to me, I also become aware of the Supreme Soul, the divine, the one who has the highest possible vision of each and every one of us, and who adores us unconditionally. It's as if I, the soul, am an empty battery, and I have to plug in to the source of all love, the source of all peace, the source of all wisdom and happiness. So I plug into that source, and I recharge myself, and I regenerate those natural qualities of mine. So silence is really very important. Observing my behavior and my attitudes, how I respond to things, how I feel about things, that's a great learning. Write things down, write a journal, that can help. Another thing is this thing about just bring myself back to the present. So just be aware of how often I'm thinking about things from the past, and focus on being fully in the present, fully with my whole heart in the present. And when I'm with someone, when I'm talking with someone, as Daddy Janki used to say, listen with your eyes. So, really be there with them. And that's how real communication and natural communication takes place. Because, of course, what we say isn't all there is in communication. There's so much more. The vibration, the tone and everything. That's how the soul expresses itself. It's really important on this journey, and it came up in that story about the young man going to the monastery, is to stay light. Is that there will always be things that come up, and there will be things that from inside me that come up that are a little bit scary or a little bit uncomfortable. But that's all part of it. And so not to get thrown down by it and not to get heavy about it, but just okay, so how can I help myself? And to keep that tone of voice as you're talking to yourself. Keep it kind, compassionate, but yes, firm, just like a good parent. And keep appreciating the wins. Celebrate your successes. I didn't get upset. I kept calm. I was patient. Make a note of it. Praise yourself. Appreciate yourself. And I think finally I would just say patience. I've been on this journey 15 years, which may sound like a long time, but actually it's nothing. And I have colleagues who've been for 40, 50 years or more. It is a lifelong journey, and it's a constant vigil. But the wonderful thing is that absolutely every day I learn something of value and of interest. And sometimes it's comfortable learning, and sometimes it's not so comfortable learning. But it's all learning, and it's taking me in the direction I want to be and taking me away from what I don't want to be anymore. I don't want to be in that straitjacket. I don't want to be in that misunderstanding of what we call body consciousness, of just relating, identifying with and valuing Rachel for what she does and what she did and her history and her personality and what she looks like and all of that. I don't want to be that. I want to be that shining soul who uses the body of Rachel, but I want to be who I really am inside. And I want all my relationships to be based on my natural qualities, those natural qualities that are your natural qualities of peace and love and wisdom, of happiness and of purity. And so I'd like to now start to move into a different phase, and that is of just, why don't we try some meditation ourselves? So why don't we practice something that I've been talking about? And so for those of you who are new, I'll speak out a few words and just listen, and listen with your whole heart. Not just the words themselves, but just listen with your feelings as well, if I can invite you to do that. Just see how it makes you feel when you start thinking about things in a different way, using your thoughts in a different way, and how that affects the way you feel, and the way even actually it affects your body. So I'll speak out some words, and here in Raja Yoga, we don't actually close our eyes. We keep them open. And so I would just recommend that you rest your eyes somewhere on the screen or somewhere else in the room, but just rest them comfortably. Not that you're forcing them, not that you have to look anything, just so that they're not taking up your attention. And it's always good when we start to meditate to relax your body completely. So sit alert though, so I'm going to sit more alert too. So sit alert so that you don't fall asleep, because sleep is great, but it's not meditating. And so you're back upright, that's it. And then I just want you to imagine that you're going to bring your body, just with the power of your own thoughts, you're going to bring your body into a state of complete, comfortable stillness. And I want you to start by imagining the tips of your toes, just allowing them to relax. And now you relax your feet, your left and your right. Just let any tension soak away. And now relax your legs up to your knees so they feel heavy on the floor. And your upper legs, your back, paying particular attention to relaxing your spine. It's as if you're giving yourself a mental massage, just with your mind, just with your thoughts. Allow your spine and your shoulders to relax. Now relax your arms right to the tips of your fingers. And now pay special attention to the back of your neck, the back of your head, your forehead, your face, your mouth. Just enjoy having brought your body to this state of stillness, of peace, so that it doesn't make any demands on your attention. And now, with the power of your own mind, your own thoughts, just imagine that you can see in the middle of your forehead, just between your eyes, a tiny point of sparkling light. And this is who you really are. A being of light energy that is always peaceful, always loving, always wise, always happy, and always pure. This is who I really am. And I may lose sight of this from time to time, but throughout the day, whenever I can, let me remind myself of this eternal truth, that this is my natural self, a being of peace, a being of love. And as I experience that truth within myself, I radiate vibrations out into the world of peace and of love. And I start to resonate with the source of all peace and love, the source of all happiness and wisdom. I, the soul, resonate with the beautiful one, with the supreme soul, my eternal parent, my best friend. The one who is full of love, as an ocean of love. And who sees me, the soul, with unconditional love. And as I feel those beautiful vibrations fill the soul, I feel I'm growing into my true self. I'm coming back into my own natural way of being. And when I come back into that natural way of being, and I share those vibrations, then automatically others will pick up on that. And they too will sense something that is positive and beautiful and natural within themselves. And so let me come back to this awareness, to this relationship again and again, the soul with the divine, in a relationship of love, surrounded by love. And then let me come back into the awareness of being in this room wherever I am, but come back with the feelings that I have in my heart, with that recognition in my understanding from my own experience that this is truly who I really am. And I can come to this, back to this experience whenever I want, whenever I get a chance. And particularly at the beginning and the end of the day. To get myself into that mindset, that right mindset, natural mindset of who I am, of the natural me. Om Shanti. I, the soul, am peace. Thank you very much. I hope there's something that's come out of today's talk that's been useful and practical to you. And as I say, I warmly recommend that you get in touch with the team at Harmony House. They have an excellent Facebook page, and they'll be able to tell you more about the many talks and meditation sessions and courses that they offer. It's a beautiful community. I love being there. And so although I haven't been there physically right now, I feel like I've been with you and I've enjoyed your company very much. So thank you very much. Om Shanti and good night.